Hi guys, this is another one of the times where I am going to be continuing one of my web novel series in my YouTube series. In the last chapter, our main character Kai, who was reincarnated as an Adam, gained a ton of skills thanks to his devouring skill, which allows him to devour other creatures if they're below 50% HP. And in this world, everyone is born with a system, stat points, skills, etc. He was supposed to be a summoned person. However, at the same time when he was summoned, a fire encased the school. Everyone else was safe, however, he was the only one who died. But he did get reincarnated into the same world where he was supposed to be summoned, since he was still over the summoning circle, and got reincarnated as a blessed Adam. We continue when he finds out that this place is in the same verse as the reincarnate in the same place as that time I got reincarnated as a slime verse, with a few differences like the system part, etc. And everyone having a different AI for the system. However, he just tries not to mind it. It just tries to skip by it. In fact, he even runs around the whole entire place to see if it's actually the same city, which it is, except it's way more advanced than the anime. And we skip to Rimuru. Rimuru is just sleeping when he suddenly wakes up, activating his universal detection skill, sensing that there is something with a similar skill to him. His gluttony, his great Lord Beelzebub skill. Years before he had transformed some of its power into a particle, seeing if any race or creature could get it and become as strong as him. However, he never expected that he would actually get to see it 3 years later. After that, he immediately goes out of the big castle he's living in and jumps out of the kingdom, then teleporting right in front of Kai, who is still running around, and suddenly stops. Kai knows that he can't just tell Rimuru that he's just fiction, and tries to make up ways in his mind so that he can survive, since he knows how overpowered Rimuru actually is. However, Rimuru doesn't waste time and immediately puts his hand on Kai's head. Kai thinks, I'm gonna die. But he suddenly hears 2 things pop up from the system. Skill transfer activated. 1 fragment of Great Lord Beelzebub. Automatically accepted. Devour skill evolution process. Finished. Devour has been upgraded to Void Gluttony. Can now even absorb the effects of items and put it on the user's own body. The skill also can now absorb materials and even monsters, so he can now also copy or absorb racial and unique skills. Kai is surprised, and Rimuru doesn't waste any time giving him another skill. Send Flame, which allows the user to create and control a crimson flame. The more people you burn with it, the stronger it gets. And this is one of those skills where you can choose to evolve it. However, the pathway of which it will evolve depends on how many souls it has killed, meaning how many monsters. After that, Rimuru just flings him away. Kai is sent flying, and Rimuru just goes back into his castle. A bunch of people in the city are wondering, what did Rimuru do outside of the city? Since nowadays, he barely leaves, nor does he actually take the time to teleport outside. So everyone is wondering, but they don't actually ask. Since they think that it might just be a private thing for Rimuru, and they could die if they did. Meanwhile, Kai is still sent flying, until suddenly he sees a person teleport right in front of him and hold his head. It's Diablo, one of Rimuru's friends from the anime. Diablo just gives him a crystal saying that Rimuru gave him 2 skills and says good luck while leaving. Kai knows what's happened and looks at the crystal, which is red in color. He then looks at its grade with the system, and it's a mythical grade. The item's name is Scale Lockstone. Can be unlocked by putting 5,000 mana points into it, or MP. After that, he decides to practice doing so and manages to, with the item immediately turning unlocked, and he can now see its description. Its description says that an unlocked Scale Lock Stone basically allows the user to, when unlocked, absorb the skill it holds. The skill it holds will always be a mythical skill, and the power of the skill, no matter what, depends on the grade. And it's mythical, so it's gonna be overpowered. Why Diablo gave this to him? Unknown reason, but he doesn't care, since he immediately absorbs it and gains a skill. 9 Great Demon Wards. Suddenly, a bunch of information of the skill pops into his head. The skill basically allows him to absorb the souls of the 9 Great Demon Lords and transform into them, gaining all of their skills temporarily. However, he cannot use all of their true power until he unlocks all of the 9 souls. Currently, he can only use 10%, and his race evolves into West Star Atom. And after that, the system immediately looks for a soul that would match him perfectly. And finally, the Demon Lord of Stars is found. This skill was probably one of the most overpowered skills ever, Kai thinks. And it's practically probably going to be his cheat code. But he thinks, why didn't Diablo give it to Rimuru or take it for himself? He could have become way stronger. However, he thinks that he would have to go through the effort of actually having to find the 9 Demon Lord souls. Plus, you never know, he might be stronger than the 9 Great Demon Lords. And he doesn't doubt that Rimuru would be too. After that, he just decides not to ask questions and tests out his Sin Flame skill, burning a tree completely. These crimson flames were already toned, meaning that Rimuru probably used it a couple of times. And he also notices that this skill is probably a sub-skill to his Black Flame skill. However, it was turned into a normal skill when it was given to him, since he doesn't have the Black Flame skill, and promises to turn it into a stronger fire than Black Flame, the strongest flame ever. And after that, he decides to go on a killing spree, killing monster after monster. Well, all the unintelligent ones. He doesn't want to anger Rimuru at all. And after thousands of killings, he makes it to a next dungeon. Shadow Hell. He knows that dungeons give the most amount of monsters ever, so if he were to use his send flame on all of them, it would be a massacre. So after thinking about that, he goes in. And immediately sees tons of new monsters just waiting to be burned to death. And tests out his 9 great wars skill using his Star Demon War form. His hair immediately turns white, contrary to its normal pure black color, and turns longer, getting all the way to his thighs. He basically gets a black suit with a galaxy blue bow tie. I don't know, you can imagine the form. I already have its form completely imagined into my head though. And also notices that this dungeon is called Shadow Hell. However, it has a hell in its name, so there are a lot of fire type monsters. So he knows that Sin Flame is gonna have a bit of a harder time, but he can still kill them. And after going on an even more of a killing spree, he finally decides to evolve the skill, selecting the skill and pressing the evolve button. The skill, having massacred a bunch of fire type monsters, goes on to a higher grade than it would usually be, getting stronger than usual. Not to mention it killed a lot of monsters anyway, so it was boosted by that as well. And he got the Hell Flame skill. Testing it out, he immediately burns all the flame type monsters and shadow type monsters, absorbing the skills on the way. He even finds materials, which he absorbs, and finds a material named Arc. For all of the materials he finds, he checks the description first, and sees that for any material he actually absorbs, he can make a skill which allows him to create that material infinitely, depending on his mana points left. And finds a type of metal called Arc. With its description, Arc is basically a metal made from the god of steel. And is extremely hard to craft with. And most heroes or summoner or people summoned into this world, heck, even reincarnated like Rimu and Kai, most notably use this material. Rimu also uses it with a material called Black Steel, which is probably the second strongest material in this world ever. However, back to Arc, even heroes use it. Demon Wards and a lot of people. However, it's not as much people as you would expect, since Arc is extremely hard to craft with. Due to this, a lot of nobles, even nobles would have a hard time getting this material. And they're rich. So it obviously sells for a very high price, especially to adventurers. So Kai, knowing that if he absorbs the thing, he can create this infinitely, immediately does it. Skill obtained. Arc creation. And he immediately uses the skill to create himself, an arm. Well, an armor for his left arm. Actually, no, his right arm. With it being mainly black, having lines of green. Releasing such high mana control in mana itself. I mean, it was originated from a god. What would you expect? After that, he uses it with some of his other skills like Hell Flame, Water Blast, and other things. Its power is greatly increased. Like all the skills he uses, power are greatly increased due to the extra point of magic power. Kai then thinks of something. During his entire time in this world, he has never used his web novel skill. So he wonders, what does it do? He's never ever checked the description anyways. So he tries to call it the skill and use it. And suddenly, when the skill activates, a book appears right in front of him, being black in color and being put into like little boxes with blue lines all over it and a W in the front, which is just a dark blue in color. After that, he opens it and sees a multitude of pages, the color black, having blue system tabs right in front of him. He then wonders what web novel can be used for, and the system AI immediately tells him. The skill web novel can be used to either lock in skills that would normally be used for one time only. So any one hit skill he can lock onto this book so that he can use it for a multitude of more times. However, it does have its limits. For example, he would only be able to use it for 9 more times before it would just disappear along with the page. Other than this feature, the user can also relatively create skills. However, it doesn't have a 100% chance of working. The skill works by asking the god of creation, and it's a 50-50 chance of who even accept the skill. Not to mention, the skill's rank currently cannot be above rare, like the grade. And web novel can be put into other skills, like other books with other skill sections. Web novel does have its limits alone, since for now it can only create skills that either heal, cause status effects, or defense skills. He can't make any power skills or anything else. So web novel does have its limits, but it's still very overpowered. Kai, seeing this, immediately presses the button on the first page, ask, and then a tab suddenly replaces that, like a big blue tab suddenly replaces that, along with a blue keyboard, and he immediately makes a skill called Insta-Heal. By using life energy in the air, the user can heal themselves. However, it does have a limit since it cannot regenerate lost limbs, and it cannot revive the dead. This should be about rare, right? And after asking, he is surprised. It's only uncommon. However, he thinks that a lot of healing skills are probably uncommon, or rare above, since during the time when everyone was outside the dungeon he used to be in, he saw quite a few healers. It probably made up 30% of the adventurers there, to be honest. And thankfully, the skill is accepted. Meanwhile, the same Sun Wukong that was watching him before was actually the person who asked the god of creation to accept his first request. In fact, he was the person who even gave him the option to have the web novel skill in the first place. And other gods accepted too. This was because he was a mangaka in the working. He made tons of mangas that gods loved, including the god of creation. This system told him that it would be 50-50, but if anything, it was probably going to be an 89 to a 19, pretty sure. If anything, gods loved his manga and all of the power systems he would create. So they were just waiting for another manga until the stupid god of summoning and god of death teamed up to kill him. However, the god of reincarnation, one of the gods who loved his manga, reincarnated him with an atom. And Sun Wukong was another god who gave him the option to have the web novel skill. Since he loved mangas, he was a true mangaka, along with quite a few other gods. However, all of their blessings were locked due to the system's limit. So, unless he upgrades the system to level 3, he won't be able to have any of those blessings. But for now, he's still very overpowered. Back to Kai, he starts fighting more and more monsters, using his sword and his right armor, slashing monsters into pieces and devouring them, gaining tons and tons of skills. Oh, and also, side note, his web novel skill would count as a unique skill and an ultimate skill. It would count in both. That does not mean they're both two different skills. They're the same thing. They're just in two different sections. So, he doesn't have two skills. The skill, it just counts to be in two different sections. That's it. Sorry, I haven't mentioned that. Back to the story. He finally gets to the boss. Shadowhound. And wonders how he's going to defeat the boss. A Shadowhound is really just a Cerberus, but shadow. Being a dark and shadow elemental master, basically. After that, he brings out his katana again, for probably the last time in this whole entire dungeon, and encases it with hell flames. He then slashes at his opponent, the Shadow Cerberus, which just barely dodges. All he needs to do is get it below 50 HP, and he should be able to kill it. And he uses skills like Hydro Cannon, the evolved version of Water Giant, or whatever it was called, piercing a giant hole in its back left leg. And he then uses its sub-skill, Hydro Cutter, summoning a blade made out of sharp water, then cutting off the leg, affecting it a lot, with it using its mana points to try and regenerate. But doing this in the middle of battle is kind of hard. He then notices that it will probably take him to cut off all of its legs until he can devour it. And so he tries to do all of that. Sub-skill, Hydro Cutter, times 3. Putting it all into one slash, wider than the entire monster. cutting off all of its legs. He then immediately activates Void Gluttony, devouring the monster whole. After that, he wonders, can he become a magic swordsman? He thinks it's a good class. And he also wonders, should I become an adventurer? Yes, he could just sell art for a living, but he still does want to get stronger. And maybe even return to the human world, but that's very unlikely. And maybe even meet his old classmates. However, he was never really friends with them in the first place. In fact, why don't we go back to his classmates? We're all having a party. They all also just defeated a dungeon, and everyone's actually wondering, since apparently 24 people were supposed to be summoned, but only 23 people were. Although all the classmates knew, it was Kai. He died right before he was summoned. Everyone thinks, that sucks, but he was a trash to reality. He liked manga and anime. Stupid. A few other people also like that, but at least they're a little bit more popular. Kai was just a pure introvert and had 0 friends. So everyone died. Even if he did get summoned to this world, he would probably just have burned to death immediately. Sucks to be him. However, a few of his classmates think he might have survived since all of the heroes were summoned with extreme mana and magic potential. And extreme mana off the bat, along with some pretty powerful, unique, and ultimate skills. Although it was only one unique and ultimate skill each hero. And since he was supposedly also supposed to be summoned, then he probably had a regeneration skill. However, it depended if he was lucky. And there were a lot of healers out there, so it was definitely possible that one of the other heroes was a healer. Or there was already one of them, so it was a very unlikely chance. Or maybe someone found him and helped him by using water magic or a water skill. Maybe. And everyone is just enjoying the feast, while a few other heroes are looking for party members. Since the heroes are relatively new, they're still trying to form their parties. While Kai is just walking to a town, and he sees another girl pass by. Black hair, red ribbon, tied under hair, which reaches all the way to her thighs, by the way. 5'6". Kai remembers all of these details and knows, that's Ash! Probably one of the most popular people in the entire school for her beauty and niceness. So he's wondering, apparently his class was summoned after all. There was a summoning circle. However, as soon as Ash senses a high potency of mana, she looks at Kai and immediately jumps in front of him asking, please join my party. And that's going to be it for this chapter. Bye-bye.